Sports editor Digvijay Singh Deo joins us to discuss that remarkable story in detail. Digvijay, this is a team that hasn't played in front of its home audience in 8 years. They very nearly didn't make it to this tournament. They were thrashed in their opener. But this, I guess, is the mysterious magic that is Pakistan cricket.
Yes, there is something about Pakistan, isn't there, Yash? And all through this tournament, when I was discussing with Chris Harris, who is the cricket expert, I kept asking him about the spirit of 1992, because that was when we saw Pakistan fight back like cornered tigers. If you go back to the start of the tournament, Pakistan absolutely played off the park by India. But since then, the introduction of Fakhar Zaman just seemed to revitalize them and give them a second win. And they carried that form all through that tournament, and key contributions especially, they peaked very well towards the end. India sadly had that one bad game at the moment they dreaded the most. And if you look back at that final, Pakistan played without any pressure, without expectations. India were the defending champions. India was the team expected to go out and win. Pakistan played fearless cricket and they won by 180 runs. Mind you, if Hardik Pandya had not got those 76, then that margin of victory would have been in excess of 200 probably.
That's right, Digvijay. It could have been even more embarrassing for India. You mentioned discussing the 1992 storyline with Chris Harris, and Chris Harris is here with us now. Chris, you were part of that 1992 World Cup, which was the last time Pakistan painted a story as incredible as this one. You would have thought nothing will ever come close to it, but this probably does.
No, there's so many similarities. The way that the Pakistan side started in the 92 World Cup, obviously they lost and they got to a position where they had to win every game basically to get through to the semis. And I remember one game they were virtually about to lose and rain came in and helped them and obviously got them through. And by the end of the 92 World Tournament, you'd think, I don't see how this side could be beaten. And then it's very similar to this side, lost that first game against India, then played brilliantly, improved, got better and better, and played their very best game in the final.
And that's actually something we're going to look at in numbers in just a bit. You often use the word mercurial when you talk about Pakistan cricket, but in the knockout rounds of this competition, the mercurial pretty much turned into majestic. Here's a look at how they went. If you look at Pakistan in the group stages, they averaged 27 with the bat, 37 with the ball. They scored at under 5 an over, conceded 5.25, lost a wicket every 28 balls and took one every 42. But once you move to the knockouts, and these are the last two games, mind you, against England and India, the pre-tournament favourites at that. So if you look at that plate where how Pakistan did in the knockouts, they lost just 6 wickets in 2 matches. They took all 20 wickets that were up against them. They averaged 92 with the bat, 18 with the ball, scored at over 6 an over, conceded 4.5. That is as clinical as it can be.
It was absolutely amazing. As you said, if you saw their pre-numbers before they got to the knockout stage, you'd say this side obviously must have been knocked out. But you said the absolute turnaround. I mean, runs per wicket went, I'm not sure the number you said, but I think it was around in the 20s to 92. That in itself is incredible. Everything improved. Because they didn't lose too many wickets, their runs per over went up. All of a sudden they're scoring at 6.34. And their average wicket lasted 87 balls, which is absolutely amazing. When you compare that to the opposition 24, that also shows how well they bowled and fielded. I thought they took some terrific catches, which some would say is a little bit un-Pakistan-like in previous tournaments, and that to me was one of the big differences.
What was quite Pakistan-like, if you go by convention, was the fact that the catalysts in both the departments, be it batting and bowling, were possibly two individuals who not many in the world were even aware of before this competition started. Fakhar Zaman didn't even play in the first game against India. Now he is a story for Pakistan cricket to rejoice for years.
Like you said, for me the catalyst was 2 young players really, in experience. Fakhar Zaman at the top of the order, when he came in, that's what changed everything for me. He had 4 innings, his lowest score I think was 36, and even in that he contributed obviously to get a reasonable total, and then he went 53, 57, and then obviously a majestic 100 in the final, which ended up being too many for India. And also, as you rightly pointed out, Hassan Ali, from a bowling perspective, I mean, he took the most wickets, 13 wickets. Every game he played in, he had an instant effect, bowled brilliantly to left-handers, and just every time he came on to bowl, something happened, and generally it was through him picking up wickets.
Yes, and if you look at how all the worlds just came together to provide an end which was absolutely spectacular for Pakistan, so spectacular that even up against an Indian side, which has been an arch nemesis for them over the years, especially in recent times, they inflicted upon that competent an Indian side, the biggest win in the history of ICC ODI tournament finals. There you have the numbers. It was a record that previously belonged to India as well from 2003. And now Pakistan, or this Pakistan team, ranked 8th in the world, has beaten India by 180 runs in a global final.
It was absolute form reversal for both teams. As I said, Pakistan, after that first game against India, you didn't really see a possibility for them to get through to the knockout stage, let alone get through to the final and win it. And that was the improvement they showed. And on the other hand, with India, you never saw India on a good batting surface, as the over was, getting bowled out for under 200. And so if someone had come to you before the final and said, Pakistan will win this game by 180 runs, you'd say, you must be mad. That's almost an impossibility. But that's what happened. That showed the improvement of Pakistan, not only their batting, because that for me at the start of the tournament was where they really struggled. Azhar Ali was their leading run scorer after 3 games, only scoring 93 runs. And that just paled in comparison to any of the other sides, let alone what the Indian top order did. And then, as you said, we saw the numbers before. Their batting, the way it turned around, we always knew they had a good bowling lineup, their fielding got better. And just in that final, as it has to happen, everything gelled. And as I said earlier, they pretty much played the perfect game and pretty much batted India out, even though India is a powerhouse with the bat in that first innings, scoring 338. That just added that much more pressure on India. And obviously, the rest is history.
Yes, the rest is history, a history that the Indian team would want to forget very soon. They wouldn't have expected. As Chris said, no one in the world could have called a 180-run win for Pakistan in the final. Let's listen in to what Captain Virat Kohli had to say after the game.
This is cricket and we are here to play good games and win games of cricket. It wasn't about me coming to England and doing well. It was about the team doing well, and we've done well to be in the finals. We can be very proud of that as a unit, and we leave here with our heads held high because we understand the kind of expectations and pressures we face as a team. But credit to everyone for standing up and showing that resilience and reaching the finals. And today we were outplayed in all departments.
Right, so Chris, this obviously a very, very bitter pill for the Indian team to swallow, given the kind of tournament they'd had. This is a team which has been used to bossing the big stage. This is a proven performers at the biggest stage. A defeat of this sort will take some time sinking in.
Yeah, for me, the final hurts India more, and I think Kohli summed it up well. He thought, obviously, everyone must be congratulated for the way they played through the tournament, and that, to me, what probably hurts the most. From their point of view, they played brilliantly through the tournament. For me, they were the pick of the teams in the tournament. They looked the team going into the final with the best form all round. The bowlers had just clicked at the right time. The batting was phenomenal, and I guess, even though he says, the better team on the day won, I'm sure they'd love to replay that final, especially with the form they had. And I just think that's what's disappointing. It looked, for me, going into the final, as though it was going to be so one-sided. And I think that's what will hurt India the most, that they were in a great position, the batters were in form, the bowlers were bowling well, and, we saw the improvement from Pakistan, but no one ever expected, to lose by 180 runs. They'll be really hurting the Indians, and I'm sure they'll keep that in the back of their memory just next time they come to a big game or an ICC event where they can recall on these memories to remind themselves how much it hurts, and just to show that next time we need to go better, because it's too hard to lose in these big tournaments.
You saw one of those pictures that came up on the screen. There was a no ball, which Fakhar Zaman could have been out of. There it is. There was a bail that refused to fall when the ball trickled down after hitting Mohammad Hafiz's pad. You thought, in a sense, that Murphy's Law just came together on one bad day at the biggest stage, at the worst time, most inopportune time possible for India. And the numbers kind of tell you that story too. India had had a superlative campaign coming into the final, and as you will see in the numbers that come up, on the day of the final, it all just fell apart in the worst way possible.
Yeah, cricket is a great leveller, and because India was so superb leading up, their numbers were astronomical, were almost out of this world. So that's why cricketer is a great leveller. At some stage, as a batsman, you're going to have to fail, and unfortunately, from India's point of view, the top 3, which had been their most successful run getters throughout this tournament, they'd got an unbelievable amount of runs, all failed in the same game, which is really unusual. And you talk about, in cricket you need a little bit of luck, and certainly the luck went out the window for India in that final. You mentioned it, Boomerang nicking out Fakhar Zaman for 3, and he ended up scoring another 111 runs. I talked about cricket being a game of inches, and obviously Boomerang overstepped only by about a centimetre, but that was part of the reason it cost. Hafiz, ball went back onto his stumps, but you know, those things happen, and some say you create your own luck, and as you said, the numbers in the final, obviously not good reading for India at all.
Yep, a team that had conceded 5.3 through the tournament, conceding 6.76, only 4 wickets falling as opposed to an average of over 7 a game that India had coming into the final. Just a case of all the wrong things happening at the worst time.
Yeah, that shows how well their bowlers, for me, bowled pre the knockout stage or pre the final. And then that's what happens when you have wickets intact. You do a little bit what India do to other teams, and you create a nice platform at the top of the order, and which Pakistan did brilliantly. And then that gives you the ability to score heavily later, and hence the reason, you know, India's economy rate was 6.76, which just isn't good.
But what these pre-final numbers do show you is that regardless of that bad day, which will pinch no doubt, it shouldn't be a tournament remembered just for the final. Some of the performances by the Indian team were pretty spectacular through in making it to the final. And yeah, we don't know if the entire setup will remain because there are question marks about whether coach Anil Kumble will retain his role in the near future. But more or less, do you feel this is a well-settled team to start planning for the 2019 World Cup?
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, there's some great signs there. I mean, you've just got to take the positives out of it. Obviously, they're going to be hugely disappointed to lose the final, but what they did brilliantly at different times is they played match-winning games. And if you said you're going to a tournament and you're going to play 4 games really well and you're going to have 1 bad game, generally most teams in the world would take that. You just really hope that that 1 bad game isn't in the final, and that's exactly what happened to India, unfortunately. As I said, they were the pick of the team through the tournament, had that 1 really, really bad game, and unfortunately just happened to be in the final.
Unfortunately happened to be in the final, and in a sense that capped off the theme of this tournament. This tournament was all about defying odds, defying form books, not just in the case of Pakistan. You saw Bangladesh make it to the semi-finals of a world event for the first time. You saw the 2 finalists from the 2015 World Cup not make it past the group stages. It was quite an astounding tournament.
It was a brilliant tournament, and I think I said earlier, you know, the weather intervened a little bit, and there were some teams that will feel they're unlucky because they had rain-interrupted matches, which they may argue that they would have won had the rain not come. But then I thought about it on the way here, and all of those teams that had rain-affected games had the opportunity to get through to that final 4. You look at Australia, they lost to England. New Zealand had to beat Bangladesh, they lost to Bangladesh. So the destiny, even though the weather did intervene, it was in everyone's hands to get through. So there was enough time played, I guess, to have a fair reflection of the tournament.
Yes, quite an astounding tournament, quite an intriguing tournament. The International Cricket Council has announced its official team of the tournament for the ICC Champions Trophy 2017. Let's have a look at what it looks like. And this is of special interest to you, Chris Harris, because come Tuesday, you will be picking your own team of the Champions Trophy 2017. This is what the ICC has named. What do you make of it?
Well, it's not bad. Obviously, the top 3 or top 4 players, or even the top 5 players, pretty much picked themselves because they were massive run getters. I think that's going to have a similar look to what I picked. Obviously, Ben Stokes, probably one of the leading all-rounders at the moment. Safraz, wicket-keeper and captain, obviously the winning captain, kept pretty well, had 9 dismissals. Rashid, I think, was the best leg spinner, or probably the best spinner of the tournament, so that makes sense. Shahid Khan deserves to be there. Kumar and Hassan Ali. Look, yeah, I think my team will be similar. I think there'll be a couple of changes, but I guess time will tell. But yeah, I think all the guys that are in the picture here thoroughly deserve to be there. And the interesting thing is there's no player from South Africa and no player from Australia.
Yes, there's Chris Harris dropping a hint there about what the makeup of his team might be like. You will see that on Tuesday on WION Sports as Chris Harris comes in and announces his Champions Trophy team of the tournament. Chris, thank you as ever for this discussion. Always a pleasure speaking to you.